What's up, Raging Nation? This is Alex here and you're watching the Raging Ronin Review. Today in this episode, I want to talk about 3D. 3D movies to be exact, because that's all the rage now. We got 3D movies, 3D gaming systems, 3D TV, 3D everything. But specifically, I want to talk about 3D movies, and it's watching movies in 3D at the theaters. So, excuse me. So, Transformers Dark of the Moon definitely raised the bar in terms of movies being in 3D. But the 3D craze really started with Avatar in December of 2009. And after that, all these movies wanted to jump onto the 3D bandwagon. But the first big example of poor 3D conversion was Clash of the Titans. Because after the success of Avatar in 3D, they had less than 3 months to convert their movie into 3D for an April release. And because of that, we came out with the crappiest 3D ever put on film. It was a poorly done, rushed conversion, and it just wasn't worth watching in 3D. So if you had the choice, you're better off watching it in 2D. The best 3 movies I've ever seen in 3D were, of course, Avatar, Tron Legacy, and Transformers Dark of the Moon. Those are the only 3 movies that I always thought that are worth watching in 3D. Everything else is just post-converted. Post-conversions aren't bad. I've seen really good post-conversions. For example, actually Piranha 3D was good, like as a post-converted movie. For some reason, it just, they did a good job because they made it a point to have this movie in 3D. So I was really excited about that. But a movie that didn't need 3D was like Green Hornet, for example. That did not need to be in 3D. I watched Pirates of the Caribbean 4 on Stranger Tides in 3D. And that was some of the worst 3D I've ever seen. And it was shot on 3D. It was actually shot by the Fusion camera systems. And I just kept on putting my glasses off and on, my 3D glasses, because I wanted to see, is there any 3D? Because when I'm watching it with my glasses, there isn't any 3D. And I wanted to see if there's a difference. And it wasn't worth watching in 3D. 2 movies that I thought were semi-good in 3D was Green Lantern and Thor. Now, the only reason why I would say it's semi-good was because the only time 3D is good is when you're in the like the sci-fi scenes. Like in Thor, when they were in another dimension, then it looked good because all those environments are all CG, and with CG you can actually make really good 3D conversions. Same with Green Lantern. The planet Oa was really good in 3D. But when in Thor and Green Lantern, when they're on Earth, the 3D isn't really that good. Like, you see a huge difference. That wasn't worth watching in 3D. Captain America wasn't great in 3D, just because I found that the colors in the movie were so washed out to give it that kind of vintage look that it just didn't help. Nothing really stood out. It's a good movie, but it just wasn't good in 3D. So what I'm trying to get at in this video is that you should do your research before you watch a movie. Like, before you watch a movie prices are getting more and more expensive these days, and you should really watch a review or read a review and then see if it really is worth watching in 3D. And hopefully they have the 2D option, because some cinemas can't house like enough theaters to, you know, to show the movie in both 2D and 3D. I think it's a bit of a cash grab. I like 3D movies if they're done well. Avatar, Transformers Dark of the Moon, that's an example of good 3D because they make it a point to shoot the movies in 3D. Not only that, but to give it an actual 3D experience. So what I'm really trying to say is that I hate crappy 3D. So please, Hollywood, if you want to make movies in 3D for us, please make it good. Like, don't just slap on 3D. Michael Bay has been telling us that a lot of the studios make 3D as an afterthought. Like, they don't make the movies with the intention of giving it a 3D experience from the very beginning. They don't do that. Like, I'm no like Hollywood filmmaker expert or anything like that, but I'm sure there is a proper process into making it good. And I think some studios still haven't figured that out yet, because we're still getting crappy 3D in movies. Let me tell you, the best 3D I have ever seen in my life is watching those IMAX documentaries on the big screen in super high resolution, and it's just really good 3D. Even Avatar did not look as good as these these IMAX documentaries that were shot with 3D IMAX cameras. Like, why can't we have that kind of 3D? I don't know how expensive the process is or what's involved, but I'm just wondering why are we not getting 3D to that caliber? Do you guys remember that? I mean, those IMAX documentaries, they're only like 30 minutes to 45 minutes long, but the 3D is just incredible. You feel like you're really there. And it helps that the IMAX screen is humongous. Why don't you write in the comments section below what you thought was an example of crappy 3D and what you thought was an example of good 3D. So, I probably know the answer. It's probably Avatar and Dark of the Moon. But let me know what you thought was a really, really bad example of 3D. In my opinion, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides has the worst 3D I've ever seen. And it was even shot with those 3D cameras. Anyways, this is Alex Yu, and thanks for watching the Rage and Rona review. Peace. Okay, let's not hear that again. So, now he can swim. Okay, anyways, enough of that.